Okay, welcome everybody. I'm going to start this one by going into some Georgia Southern stuff. I feel like we should be in game week this week. So we've been practicing. We got about 18 of them under our belt, and got a plan for what I'm going to do with the guys here for the next 2 weeks. But with that said, because school started last week, we're in our second week of school. It feels like this should be game week, but so I don't have anything else to talk about. So let's talk about Georgia Southern. And in all actuality, when we meet with our players here this afternoon at 2:30, we will start immediately going into Georgia Southern to give us 2 weeks of prep time. I felt like that was appropriate based on the challenges that they pose. We have been doing some Georgia Southern stuff over the last probably almost a week, but we'll exclusively go against Georgia Southern here for the next 2 weeks. This will be a quote-unquote mock game week for us. We will have a good Tuesday practice today, another one tomorrow, leading into this weekend where we will travel on Friday. There's going to be probably 8 or 10 guys that will be traveling with us this year that don't know how we travel, so we'll travel on Friday. We'll stay at the hotel. We'll go through in reality exactly what we will be doing on Fridays and Saturday. Come back here Saturday, do a mock game where we go through a lot of situations, and then turn them loose until Sunday night. And then when we get back here Sunday night, it'll be routine for everybody. So, Georgia Southern it is very well coached. They've won, as y'all know, lots of FCS national championships, but they should not be. They are not FCS opponent. They've successfully made the transition to 1A in their first year in the Sun Belt. They won it, so that speaks volumes of Willie Fritz and how good of a coach he is, and the tradition and that Georgia Southern possesses. These guys have won a bunch. They got great tradition, and they understand how to win. My job's going to have to get through to our players. They don't have the name recognition of an Alabama, but within our coaching fraternity, they got plenty of name recognition. Myself and the staff understands who they are, what they've accomplished, the talent that's in Georgia. I know. I started coaching there. They know what kind of players they got, know what kind of players they get. And they're used to winning, and they expect to win. They won 9 1A games last year, should have won 2 more, and barely lost to NC State and barely lost to Georgia Tech. They were winning in both those games, almost won the Georgia Tech game. So good team. But everybody knows they beat Florida 2 years ago, and we know what kind of players that Florida got. So the challenges offensively that they possess, although we all know that they're on their second quarterback. There is plenty of games last year where they were on their second quarterback. The Upshaw kid came in lots of different situations. He's going to be a year older. He's going to understand what to do, and he's going to run that offense every bit as good as what he did last year, more than likely better. The starter that's not playing, we know that's a break for us. He was a great player, but they still got lots of good players around them. If you look at their O-line, they're replacing a lot of guys, but they're replacing them with upperclassmen. That shows what kind of shape that their program is in. When you lose a lot of starters up front and you're replacing them with juniors and seniors, that means they got a lot of guys that understand what to do. The style of ball that they play offensively is not one that new guys can come in and pick up and play right away. So they've got a lot of guys that understand what to do. Their running back, the Breida kid, is probably as good as anybody that we'll face all year. He's got top-end speed, can get out in the open, and people don't catch him. That's why they led the nation in rushing last year. When you got quarterbacks and running backs that can do that, they're pretty good. So they don't turn the ball over, which is really impressive based on the ball changing hands so much with the spread attack, the option attack, the amount of handoffs and stuff that they got going on. It's impressive that they only turn the ball over 12 times all year. So they do a great job with ball security as well. Defensively, they got a lot of guys coming back. It's different than what we do defensively, so we're going to need the extra week to be able to prepare for them. They base out of a 4 down, but they go multiple with it. They will get into a 3 down front. They will get into a bare front with 2 outside guys that are up on the line of scrimmage. They got 7 returning starters. You know, their linebackers are really good player, 37 Williams and 27 Gallen. Those guys are both good players that showed up on tape last year. Most of their D-line is back, and their safeties are extremely active. They got new people at corner, but we got new people at receiver. So I think that's probably a wash. So, like I said, this is a team that we will start talking about, and it's our job to get through to them. I don't think it'll take long once we start watching the tape with our players today. They're going to see the quality of an opponent, and they're going to understand that this is a difficult task, and we need to make sure that we prepare the way we know how to prepare in order to play this game. So with that, I turn it over to some questions, whether they're personnel with us related or Georgia Southern related. We'll take some questions.
How do you replicate what they do with your scout offense?
Well, our scout offense has been watching tape for 2 weeks, so we've been getting bits and pieces of it. Gibby's been taking some individual time, some morning walkthrough time to go through it. You can't replicate it the way you want to replicate it, but David Sills has been doing a great job with that. He's been coming in, watching tape. His handoff option stuff is really good. He really does a good job with that stuff, and smart kid, so he understands that's kind of what his role is going to be here for the next couple of weeks, and just show him a bunch of tape and just keep repping it, and hopefully we can get it to where it looks close.
What about health-wise with your team?
Good, really good. If the only advantage I've seen on it seems like being in camp for 3 weeks and then being in school for 3 weeks prior to the first game is once school starts, you only get them for 20 hours a week. So, we haven't been having, knockdown, drag-out practices here lately. So our overall health is really good. Ed Muldrow is the only guy that hasn't practiced. Everybody else has been good. I don't know what's wrong with Ed. Nobody knows what's wrong with Ed, but he can't play. So he's going into his senior year when he feels good. I know he's going to get out there, but he's the only one that hasn't been repping.
Leg,
Don't know.
Danny, you mentioned Gibby working with the offense. Is anybody in particular coaching up Sills that maybe isn't Gibby? Is it Mike?
Yeah, Gibby's doing it. I mean, he's the one that, he's kind of running the whole show there, right?
Dan, when you sit your team down and lay out goals for the season, and I presume that you do that, what kind of goals will you set for this year?
Well, I mean, we've been talking a little bit more long-term stuff than I have in the past. Usually everybody does the same thing. I mean, they say this is what's important. This is the only thing that's important is this team right here. We gotta win 1 game a week. We gotta prepare for this one. We gotta win it, and then we can move on to the next one. And I think that's the way the majority of the coaching staffs across the country do it. I got some older guys that we can talk a little bit more real with, and what I've noticed in the past a little bit is if, everybody wants to, we break it down with Big 12 champs every day. We talk about Big 12 champs, everybody wants to win a national championship. Well, what happens in the past, I mean, what's happened when that becomes not a reality? That doesn't mean things are done, So I've been talking with our guys about, let's look about the big picture a little bit here too. Let's make sure that, what's happened the last couple of years doesn't happen this year if we're not successful for some reason throughout the course of the season. So, what's successful to me? There's a lot of things that are successful to me. Obviously we want to win a Big 12 championship. We want to put ourselves in position to talk about the college football playoff. That's what everybody in the Power Five wants to talk about. Win the conference is important, but graduating kids and having a successful season, winning season, best bowl game that we can possibly go to, those are things that long-term I think are important as well.
Did you see what you wanted to see offensively in the scrimmages?
Never do. Never do. I had no idea what we were gonna do this past Saturday. I mean, we struggled with it as a staff because it was a week of transition from camp to mock week. We had a week, none of us had ever been in this before. In my 20 years of coaching, I've never had 3 weeks of school prior to the first game. So there was a lot of talk, what do we do? You only get them for 20 hours. What do? Do you hold 3-hour practices and not meet them? Do you lift them? Do you rest them? Do you recover them? Well, we practiced a good bit on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We got after it pretty good. Rested up a little bit on Friday. And then late Friday night, we had a meeting after practice, and we decided that our top 22 didn't need to play a whole bunch. So we held those guys a good bit on Saturday and practiced the twos and the threes. Never have I been in a place to where we could practice the threes the way that we practiced our threes last Saturday. Those guys got about 50 live reps, which sitting your first team offensive line, practicing with your second, and having a third team understand what to do. I've never been anywhere where we could do that. So from that standpoint, I liked what we got. Did it look the way we wanted it to from some of the key backups? It never does. But we did get a bunch of reps that we can keep evaluating, and hopefully that'll pay off in the future.
Does that help you figure out the twos and the threes on the depth chart as far as where they fall behind the ones?
Should, and for the majority of the positions, we know who our twos are. There's still some positions out there that we don't. And, we told the team Saturday after practice, we did this because we need, we know who the top 22 are, which, the top 22 may be a starter, may not be a starter, but, the other, we play about 55, 56 in the game. So how important is that number 50 guy that's running down on kickoff or, on punt return? Well, it's pretty important. Or if the starter goes out, the next guy goes in, or even the third team guy's got to go in there and play a little bit. You got to play, those guys got to play at a high level if you want to win. So those guys got to keep getting better.
What would you say is Skylar Howard's best quality right now?
Competitive, got a chip on his shoulder. Is tired of hearing about how he's not big enough or how he's not fast enough or how he's not good enough. So he wakes up every day competing with himself and doing what he's got to do to make all that go away, whether it ever will or not. He's going to wake up and he's going to work hard and be focused on what he's responsible for. And yeah, I've been happy with what he's done.
Dana, the mock week you talked about, is that something you've always done, or when did you start doing it to the point where you simulate everything?
Not last year or 2 years ago to this extent. I think everybody kind of simulates it a little bit, but to the extent of doing everything, I believe it was last year. I don't want to remember anything that happened 2 years ago, so we'll go with last year.
How would you say that Jared Barber is looking physically after these last few weeks of camp?
Good. He's been good. That's a position where we've been able to play a lot of people. Whether it's Al Benton going in or Justin Arndt going in at that middle linebacker spot. We bumped Kwiatkowski in there some. So we got a lot of people. So he hasn't had to take the maximum amount of reps every single day. So he's in a good place right now.
It's going to be his first live game in about over a year. What are you going to be looking to see from him, Georgia Southern?
Same thing I've seen out of Jared since the Orange Bowl or since his freshman year. He's played a lot of ball around here. This isn't the first time somebody had a knee injury. It's part of the game. Most very high percentage of guys come back and they're even stronger than they were before. So he's practiced a lot since that happened and is without a doubt our smartest football player and probably our most physical football player as well. So he looks better than he ever has.
Dana, you're going against Georgia Southern, you mentioned, and what they present. How do you think your defensive scheme matches up with what they bring?
I think good. I think good. You know, we're a perimeter-oriented defense, and where what we try to do offensively is put it on the ball with throwing it. You know, they try to do it with a bunch of different other stuff with motions and, you know, pitching the ball and options and all that stuff. So I think our speed in the secondary, if we can maintain assignment you know, being assignment sound football defensively, then I think our team speed will be able to handle that. It's a lot of reps that these guys got to see in order to understand what to do. Having the experience at linebacker and safety, I think, is going to be key. You know, we're talking about 5 seniors that are second level players. So if our front line guys can be tough and hold gaps and allow those 5 guys to run and see it and understand it, then I got confidence in our defense to be able to slow them down.
You know, when you're in a situation, Dana, where you're thinking of bringing a guy in, who's had some past disciplinary problems at a different school, we're kind of looking at the Baylor situation now. What kind of, as a coach, what kind of a vetting process, what kind of a research process do you go through?
I don't understand the question. To bring guys in to talk to our team,
when you're thinking of bringing in a guy who has some past.
a transfer guy?
Yeah.
Well, if we're going to entertain a transfer, then, I mean, this is a easy question, you know, compared to, I don't want, I mean, whatever's happening outside of here, it's not for me to talk about at this time, but what we've done, we've always done the same thing. I mean, we do background checks on guys based on high school coaches, junior college coaches, former coaches. We put everything in our administration's hands, and if there's an issue, then we make a decision based on collectively what's best for this university.
Yeah, you mentioned that you have first-year receivers going against first-year cornerbacks. As a rule, don't receivers usually develop faster than cornerbacks? But however, this being the first game, does that make that a wash?
I hope so. I don't know. It's going to be fun to watch. You know, they got some guys that are transfers. So they got some 4-year transfers at corner. They got some Texas junior college transfers at corner. So from an experience point of view, it's probably a wash. I mean, we got, you know, Karan played a year at junior college. We got Devontae Mathis and Vernon Davis, who are juniors that have played some snaps here. Shelton's played some snaps here. And then obviously there's a couple of true freshmen that haven't played snaps here. So, I think the best player wins. And you got to get out there and you got to play. You know, and you gotta put them under the lights, and you gotta put live bullets in the holster and fire them away and see what happens. So I don't think you can truly answer that question, Bob, until you see it up live and personal.
Did you expect maybe to get collective production instead of maybe out of one?
Might have to be that way, because again, I don't know how they're going to respond. So none of them have experience, and you know, we gotta put somebody out there first. I wouldn't put too much stock in who goes out there first. I would, you know, based on how it looks, guys are going to get yanked or guys are going to get pushed back in there. So I'm as interested to see it as y'all are. I like what the bodies are. I like their attitude and their effort and their mentality and where they're at. You know, didn't truly know about, you know, Kevin and Mario, how good they were going to be last year until they got out there in the game and they started making plays. That relationship with the quarterback's huge. It's huge. I mean, Clint knew those guys. So, you know, how much Skylar can get on the same page with some of those guys, or William with some of those guys, is going to make an impact on how they do out there.
Who's going to start? You're going to go with first?
So it's the 2 spots that I haven't made the. It's the right guard with Bosch and Matteo, and the X and the Z. Those are the 2 spots on our football team. We haven't made that decision yet.
Hey, Dana, in your experience, what's the biggest obstacle that a receiver faces
so he knows the routes even though he's young, he knows where he's supposed to go. Is it the fact that he's 19 years old and he's playing against 22 and 23-year-old corners? Is that the issue? What normally is the obstacle that they're not productive initially?
I don't think that's the issue as much as the timing with the quarterback. There's just, like, quarterbacks learn nuances of receivers that you can't just be told. I can't say this guy runs 4-3, this guy runs 4-5, place the ball a little bit farther here than here. Can't say that. It's understanding little nuances and developing, just chemistry with these guys. Everybody knows what I'm talking about with just little nods and flashes and pumps and stuff to where those guys got to figure that stuff out on their own. So I don't think Kevin has the year he had last year without the chemistry that existed with Clint. Not taking anything away from Kevin. He's a top 10 pick. I'm talking about the overall production numbers. Everybody sees guys that get drafted in the second round, third round, fourth round that don't have big numbers. It's because of the chemistry. You probably just wasn't there with the quarterback. So we get that. The good news is that exists right now with Skylar and DeKeel and Jordan Thompson and Wendell Smallwood. I mean, it exists with them right now because they've been doing it for the last 2 years. It's pretty good with Shelton because they've been doing it for a year and a half. We got to find one or two more.
Any plans to get William Press snaps at quarterback, or is that just see how it works?
He's been practicing well. I like what I see out of William. He's been practicing. He's been competing. He had his best day on Saturday. So, that's the decision that I got to figure out. Wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
Thanks. Your goal of getting your best five on your skill guys on offense, how much, more versatile can you be, whether it's keeping the same five out there in different spots or swapping guys in each different formations?
My job is to get to 5 as soon as I can. I can't get to 5 right now. DeKeel's one of them, Jordan's one of them, Wendell's one of them. So we're at 60% right now, where 2 years ago, we were at 0%. Because none of those guys were ready to go. Even Charles Sims, we watched him last night, is a good NFL player. I mean, him and Clint, shook hands and introduced themselves to each other, or him and Paul, I guess. And 2 days later they were playing a game. So we're farther along than we were 2 years ago. We still got to find 2 more guys.